Hey, this is Phoenix, and thank you for joining me on the L2R Podcast. Today, we go across the pond to talk to a guy who lives in England. Well, he's not just any guy, he's a master motorcycle safety instructor. And his point of view about where we are in terms of safety and riding and how we should think when we're riding is quite insightful. My conversation with Geoff Pretty on the L2R Podcast. It was fantastic. I'd never seen it before. And I thought, man, there's so much stuff out there that we don't even know about this man. But yeah, it was fantastic. I think it was like Take Me Home Country Road or something.
Wow. No, I love just about all styles of music. Country to rock to opera, you name it, I love it.
Does the same hold true for motorcycles?
Yep. Most definitely. Yeah, I mean, I know you've got a little bit of my bio there, but I started riding when I was 16, and next month I'm 65. So that's 49 years. Love it. You know,
and in those 49 years, kind sir, do you still recall the first bike you had?
Oh, yes. A Honda Cub. C90 Cub. A Honda Cub. Brand new. It was when I was still at school. Brand new, 130 pounds, which I think is something like 220 of your dollars at the moment.
Right.
Brand new.
Jeez.
And I was at the motorcycle show last year, the NEC Birmingham Motorcycle Show, and the Cub's been relaunched, hasn't it?
It has, actually.
And I was chatting to a young lady there who was only about 18, and I said, I bought mine in 1972. Well, I wasn't born then, so I gathered that. And it cost £135. Oh, well, they're 3,200 now. Oh, yeah. That's fine. That's okay. But yeah, it was, but it was a lovely bike, reliable. Most of my bikes have been Hondas. I've had a few others, Motor Guzzis and a couple of others, but always come back to the big H. Love them.
The one thing right now that I've read here, you're riding now a Honda Pan-European. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, when I retired from the police in 2008, I treated myself to it as my retirement present.
Perfect.
Still going strong with 120,000 miles on the clock.
My heavens, man!
I know you do kilometres over there, don't you? 120,000 miles is, I don't know, 60,000 miles is 100 kilometres, so 200,000 kilometres on it.
You're right. We go with kilometers, and we also drive on the other side of the road.
I know, yeah. It's a match. There you go.
Have you had a chance to visit North America and experience our way of driving?
I haven't, unfortunately. I was in New York in '86, and that was to run the marathon. Slightly different.
Did you finish Did you finish?
Yeah. I ran London Marathon in the April, New York Marathon in the same November.
Jeez.
There you go. That's all. No, I'd love to come back when I get the chance. As I say, I follow a lot of people over there. It's recently got to yourself. Foster Kin, you obviously know the name.
Sure.
Follow him, and I bought his books and whatever, some of the stuff he...
Do me a favor, if you do make a plan to come to North America in the near future, you're following me, okay?
Yep.
So I've got to keep you on the right side of the road.
I'll follow you, and I will, when we finish the ride, I will do a marking sheet for you and give you a score.
I love it. Yes. That's perfect. So the reason that you and I are connecting is actually over the last couple of weeks, we've been exchanging emails back and forth. And I think it all started with motorcycle schools. And we've been recently on License to Ride. We've been actually promoting safety through motorcycle schools. And
Mhm.
of course, with COVID-19, everything has been slowed down, and a lot of these schools have had time to really think about how they're going to proceed forward with COVID as well. But what was fascinating to me is the segments that we actually were filming. I actually personally, I've been riding for some time myself, not as long as yourself, kind sir, but I actually picked up a few tips, and I'm certain that your school, Meridian Bike Training,
Yeah.
is, you probably have a lot of students who have come to you who've been riding for some time. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm certain that they must be learning something that they never thought they would even be able to learn.
This is it. Going back, you've got your gearing up, is it called, isn't it, for
License to ride.
training?
Yeah, license to ride.
Yeah. Gear up thing I've noticed. Before 1990, you could ride a motorcycle, buy a motorcycle, put learner plates on it, ride it for a bit, pass a test, which was 3 times round a block with the examiner standing in one place and saw you go past 2 or 3 times, got your full license, and that was it. No structured training, no nothing. So people learnt from their mistakes, and you just, fingers crossed, your mistakes were little ones, not big ones. So then in 1990, the government decided to set up this compulsory basic training. So anyone who wanted to ride on the road had to do this first. And then depending on your age and your experience, you could build up and up. So when you get to 24, you could take an extra test and ride anything you wanted. It's 17, 19, 21, 24. Right. And that got you the full license to ride a motorcycle. So you could ride a motorcycle, any roads, motorways, highways, take pillions, the whole lot.
With relatively little or no training at all.
Not a lot. And the CBT, compulsory basic training, is 1 day. It's some talking, here is a motorbike, ride it on an off-road area, can you start, stop? Let's have a chat about riding on the road, let's ride on the road for 2 hours, there's your CBT. Extend that to 3 or 4 days extra training on a slightly bigger bike, full license, that's it.
So some would say that's all you really need.
Well, it's a bit like the driving test for a car. Everyone is taught to a standard. So the plan is that everyone who drives a car,
a basic standard.
It's a standard. But then you need to take that further, which is, I started in the police, riding bikes in the Metropolitan Police in London. And that was in 1985. I did the motorcycle course, and they teach what's called the system of car control, the system of motorcycle control, which is a set routine you work as you're riding, a 5-point plan that doesn't change whatever you approach. A junction, a roundabout, an overtake, on and on. You work this 5-point plan.
Right.
And the more you work it, the better you get. It becomes second nature. And the idea is they talk about making progress, but you make responsible progress. So if the road is a national speed limit, ordinary road is 60 miles an hour here, 100k. Mm-hmm. If it's clear and safe and suitable, you do 100. If there's lots going on, you might do 50. Because that's responsible progress. And yes, people learn so much more applying the system, the advanced techniques, and it relies so much on information gathering, using the information, making links. You see this, it could mean this. You see that, it could mean that. Mm-hmm. So you're prepared for anything. Nothing catches you by surprise. You're proactively working all the time.
Although I'm sure, Geoff, you would admit too, though, that you can't plan for every scenario. You can probably just plan for those scenarios that happen on a more frequent basis. Yeah,
I agree with that. But with experience comes other stuff.
Of course.
And it's information linking. We have a lot of small roads in the country here. So you might be riding down a nice straight little road, 60 miles an hour, catching a van up, think I'll overtake this van. There's nothing coming the other way. There's nothing behind me. But then 200-300 meters up the road, on the right-hand side, there might be a little row of trees disappearing into the side. So is that a road, a farm track, a footpath, or what? Somebody might come out.
Mm-hmm.
So let's not overtake.
Or maybe even an animal.
Anything.
Right.
So if you hold back on the overtake until you're sure that's clear, there won't be suddenly somebody pulled out.
So when I think about that, I ask myself the question whether or not people who are taking these courses, or people who have had experience, 10, 15, 20 years experience riding, do they get to a point, I think I already know the answer to this question, but I'm curious from you as an instructor, as a master instructor, do they get to the point where they say to themselves, I know everything there is to know about riding and my riding behavior? Do you think that we're fighting with that attitude right now?
Some people, there are some people, very few, but there are people who have come to me, think they're God's gift to motorcycling. So you've seen it.
I think I've met a few of them here too.
Yeah, they're about. So I've been riding this long on all these bikes, and I reckon I'm the best rider in the world. Fine. But that means everybody else out there is worse than you, and they're the ones that will cause you the problem. So you've got to ride to the lowest common denominator. If you're on a racetrack, whatever, you're all the same skill. And if you fall off, there's nothing to hit except an airbag. If you get it wrong on the road, it's too much to hit. So you're always erring on the side of safety. I always say to people, you know what your maximum is when you're riding, because that's when you last scared yourself. Now ride at 75%. And you've got lots of margin for any errors you might make, any things anyone else might do, etc. And you're so well within your comfort zone, nothing catches you out. Yeah, there are pure accidents. Police over here don't call accidents accidents anymore. They're collisions.
Collisions, yes.
Because an accident means it's nobody's fault.
Right, right.
Now, an accident might be, well, I saw one on our television program recently, lady driving a car down the road and a tree fell off the side of the road and hit her car. Jeez. Well, that's an accident. But if somebody pulls out of a side road without looking, that's not an accident. That's somebody's fault. So you're implanting into these folk, ride at 75%, see everything, think everything, outthink everybody else, and you'll be as safe as you can be. You can never guarantee 100% safety, but there's danger in everything you do. You could fall down the stairs. You could trip up a curb and crack your ankle. You could do anything. But if you can be as safe as possible, that's all I want to do. And I want someone to go out, have a ride, and come back with a smile on their face.
Absolutely, and just share it with everybody else and tell them how wonderful that ride was. I saw it was a video where this guy, he was getting out of his garage and he was all decked out in his helmet and his gear, and he looked fantastic. And as he's walking towards his bike, just as he's reaching for his bike, he slips on the gravel and falls down and hurts himself. You know, it's one of those things that we don't think is going to happen, but we do our best to prepare ourselves. I don't know what the statistics as of recent have been, Geoff, where you are, but I'll say here recently, at least in Canada, the numbers for collisions, if you will, has been on the rise. And a lot of people are suggesting that the reason for this is because of what's happening with the virus. In this sense, that motorcycle schools are closed down, at least temporarily. That people who are trying to get their license, they can't because now there's a backlog. That we have more time on our hands now because a lot of people are not working. But the end result of that, Geoff, at least here in North America, we're finding, is that there's been an absolute increase in motorcycle collisions. What's the story over there in England?
Very similar. When the restrictions were lifted a little bit, people could go out for a ride, because you can't go out except for a local park or a walk for exercise. And then the last 2 or 3 weeks, you can ride or drive to somewhere else to take your exercise. So people would ride 20, 30 miles, because it's nice, to a park and walk around that park and then come home. Well, when this all started, there was hardly anybody on the road. So the roads were empty. Oh, I enjoy myself. Haven't ridden my bike for 2 or 3 months. I really enjoy myself. So
Sure.
things were a bit mad. And then things caught them out because they're not riding at 75%. They're not thinking what they're doing. Their skills have suffered a dip as well. And they're not particularly, and I find this happens a lot with what I call born again bikers. Guys and girls who rode some years ago and then are coming back because traffic, bikes, everything else has changed. If you go back, I don't know, 20 years, 20, 25 years, someone's growing up, gets married, has kids, has to give the bike up. And perhaps they had over here a Triumph, that, you know, a 650 Triumph that would do 85 miles an hour, 120k if you were lucky downhill with a following wind. And they'd find their favourite road and do that. They now come back and think, I'm not going to buy a huge fire-breathing monster like a Fireblade. I'll get another 600. But the 600s now can do 200k.
Unbelievable, isn't it? You're right.
So they're riding down their favourite road. Oh, yes, I remember this road. And I used to go around there. Oh, I'm doing this.
They're scaring themselves. Yes.
The bike will do it. The bike is much more capable than the rider. And that's another thing I'm trying to do, is the difference between the bike and the rider. I close that gap. You know, unless your name's Rossi or something similar, you're never as good as your bike is. But if I can close that gap to be as small as possible, you know your bike, you trust your bike, you know your skills, you ride within yourself.
Right.
That's sort of job done. You know, you can't legislate for everything. That's the problem, as you know. You give them the best training you can.
You can, and there's only so much you can do, but at least there's a source of information in your company, again, Meridian Bike Training, that people can get that. Are you open? Are your doors open? Are you back to training again?
I've got a webinar actually on Friday.
Excellent.
I mean, I do my private training is Meridian under the government's advanced riding scheme called Enhanced Rider Scheme. And then I do training, it's called Observing, for IAM RoadSmart, which is a charity, road safety charity. Now, the training under RoadSmart starts next Monday. I'm told that can start, obviously with social distancing. So where you normally sit next to someone and do a bit of note taking, you have to do it separately. And at the end of the ride, you'd normally fill out a report form and hand it to them. Now you stand 6 feet apart, chat, go home, write or email it to them. It's not a problem. So I'm hoping that the DVSA, which is the government department that does the training that I'm doing on the private basis, going to say on this webinar on Friday, yeah, we can start again.
Excellent. That's great. That's great news, because I'm telling you, with the amount of, as I mentioned earlier, the amount of accidents collisions that we're seeing, it's staggering, and it brings to light one's own ability. And you ask the question when you get on your bike, do I have my arsenal of information that I need when I get on my bike? Because it's scaring a lot of people. Let me ask you this: is riding a motorcycle in Europe that much different than riding a motorcycle in North America?
I wouldn't say so myself.
Okay.
From looking at videos, reading books and everything else, I mean, lots of advanced training books I've read from all sorts of people. I know in the city, you've got the grid system. Most cities are on a grid, and there's big issues with cars turning left and right. And I think the biggest issue is with the size of the vehicles. You know, we're getting over here, a lot more people are buying bigger vehicles. And whereas before, if you sat on a motorcycle, the roof of the vehicle's here, and now it's up here. And there's all the pillars, restrict vision. And I think when people drive these, particularly over here, where they're getting used to, I've got a huge vehicle with all these safety systems, I'm invincible, it doesn't matter, and they don't concentrate. And I think the other thing that needs to happen here and well everywhere, people are trained to look for motorcycles. If you're a biker and you're driving a car, you will look for bikes at junctions. You won't pull out of a junction without, right, that's fine, rather than, oh, that looks okay.
Sure.
Because there's something called motion camouflage, if you've heard of that. It's where a bird of prey, for example, will fly out of a tree, the rabbit in the field, and it will fly with the tree behind it. So if this is the tree, the rabbit won't see a thin pair of wings. And if the rabbit moves, the bird will actually scan sideways in flight, so the tree is always behind it. So the rabbit doesn't see it coming. Now, unless you're a biker, when you look, you're looking for a box, car, van, bus, truck. You're not looking for a thin thing which gets
correct. So correct. Yes.
That. So we've had mantras here: look once, look twice, think bike, all sorts of things like that.
Love it.
And so as a biker, you need to preempt that. So if you're on a main road, someone's coming to a T-junction and they're going to turn out, as you approach, rather than ride straight at them, do a little weave. It's not a swerve, but it's a little weave, and that crosses their eye line.
100%.
And it's surprising how all of a sudden a 300-kilo motorcycle with me on it suddenly appears out of nowhere.
You're absolutely right.
Hello, I've been here. It's both sides working together. And actually, there was a suggestion made a while ago. Anyone who's learning to drive should spend a couple of hours with a CBT school on a moped with an instructor. It's all part of the system. So you now ride a two-wheeler through the local town, and you see what it's like, see how vulnerable you are. So when you get in a car, you think, I must have a look. But as I say, unfortunately, if that's the right word, the onus is on bikers to preempt all this.
Well, it's on the bikers because they're smaller, as you say, they're thinner as well too, so they're more vulnerable. I mean, if somebody involves themselves in a collision in a vehicle, for the most part, they're protected by all the machinery and all the safety gadgetry, right? So,
yeah.
So unfortunately, or fortunately, if you will, the rider, the motorcyclist, is the one who is got to be more attentive. But at the same time, though, it's also, to me, it's a state of mind. That anytime you decide that you want to go for a ride, you have to put yourself into a state of mind and realize all the things that you just mentioned. That you're a lot smaller than you think you are, and just because you've got a lot of speed or a lot of noise underneath you does not guarantee your safety.
Exactly. And as I say, IAM RoadSmart and other people that train, they talk about making progress. That's part of the police system. When it's safe and suitable, let's go, let's do it. But I always call it progress with responsibility.
Progress with responsibility. I like that.
So I say to folk, when you're out riding your bike, to whom are you responsible? And they say, well, me, I suppose. Yes. And then who? Everybody else out there? Yes. And then who? Don't know. Person at home wants you to go home. Wife and kids. So they say, bye, darling. Have a nice ride. See you later. Yes, you will. I'm not sure. Because you're employ all the skills you've been taught, all your mindset. And when you ride a bike, the only thing you can have on your mind is riding the bike.
100%.
You can't think about the argument you just had, the this, the that. You're 100%, you're totally focused. I am riding my bike, nothing else. And all the information you gather and give to other people. And as I say, information links. You're going past a gas station. What are you going to find past a gas station? Spilt oil, spilt diesel, spilt petrol, tyre rubber from big trucks pulling in and out, people not watching. Say, shut the throttle, ease past, that's better, go past. Don't just oof, because something will suddenly come out of the petrol station. Nothing suddenly comes out for petrol station when I go past it. So have a look.
Geoff, I tell you, man, you know what? You are so keen, and it shows with all of your experience as a police officer as well, too, a constable. And I'm telling you, sir, we are so fortunate in the motorcycle world to have someone like you on our side. The website is www.meridianbiketraining.co.uk. www.meridianbiketraining.co.uk. I hope
Yeah.
you make your way out here kindly, sir, because I tell you, a lot of these schools that are out here in North America need your input. It's great
That's
to
very kind
collaborate.
of
It's
you.
great to share.
Mhm. Yeah, I'd love to do it at some point. I'd love to come out because, you know, as I say, people get some basic training, but then when they want to take it further,
Yeah.
it can be a bit hit and miss with who you go with. You know, someone can say, I'm a really good rider and I can teach you stuff. But what's the background?
What's the background?
What skills have you had, in my case, for 35 years, since 1985?
Exactly.
That's when I learnt the system. I've been riding 13 years and I learnt the system. And since 1985, that's what I've been doing. So it's in there. And I love biking. Biking's, they will say biking's a Marmite thing. You know, Marmite, you either love it or you hate it.
Yeah.
Some people get on a bike and try. We have a scheme here called Get On, and you have an hour on a bike with a local school to see if you fancy it. And you get on a bike and you think, no, it's okay. And the other people say, can I do it again? Can I do it again? And I'm going for a ride after 49 years of riding.
Love it.
Right. I was out yesterday, I was out today, and I'm out Sunday. Great. And the beauty is, a nice day, Sunday's supposed to be a nice day, I would go for a ride because it's a nice day and I'll take the bike out. If somebody then contacts me and says, can I pay you some money to ride behind me, please? That's a toughie, isn't it? Okay, I'll do that. That's absolutely fine.
I agree. It's we call it wind therapy out here, and I hope you can use that phrase as well. Wind therapy. www.meridianbiketraining.co.uk. Geoff, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. Let's reconnect in the next little bit, okay?
Yeah, certainly. We'll keep in touch and we'll have another chat at some point. But good to talk to you. Good to see you. Keep up the good work your side of the pond, as they say. Let's make people the best they can be. That's all I'm trying to do. There is only one best rider in the whole world. It's not me. I'm close. No, it's not me. But let's get everyone as good as they can be. Let's make sure if you go out for a ride, you come home with a smile on your face, not in some sort of emergency vehicle. And you think, I enjoyed that. That was good. I had a good time. A nice ride, made good progress, really enjoyed it. All legal, all safe. And I came home to the wife and kids and thought that was, thank you very much. Nice.
Well said, Geoff. Well said. We'll talk soon, kind sir.
Yeah, you take care, mate. All the best.